can see, of course, as the photographs change, you go from the Polaroids to the normal size photographs. I think technology changed quite a bit. That's my first birthday party, actually, in Nigeria, and with the family and friends. And as I get older, my friends start to attend as well. And this is a great picture, I think. If I just take this out to show you. Everyone seems glum. I don't know why, but no one's smiling apart from my sister. I got my mouth full of cake, I think. So more than the birthday, it was just an opportunity to reconnect with friends. And we're still in touch, actually, with some of them. And this guy here is based in Australia at the moment, and so it became a place where families would get together, and particularly as Sri Lankans, living in a place like Nigeria where there's no one else. So the uniting thing was the fact that you were Sri Lankan, and so you met, whether you were Muslim or Sinhalese or Tamils, you would meet and you would congregate. And birthday parties was a great opportunity. And one of the things as well in Nigeria is that it has a very strong, I think the populations are 50% Muslim, 50% Christian, and we were living in the north, which is predominantly Muslim. So there was a very heavy Muslim concentration there. And as a consequence of going to the mosques and engaging with the international community, because as you're there as an international community, you obviously end up meeting other international. So you then end up having friends from Pakistan or from Lebanon or from Turkey. So part of that. So my Muslim identity, I would say, was strengthened because of our interactions with other Muslims, and that gave me a strong sense of who I was as a Muslim, in terms of my practices and how I viewed myself, which was a very interesting experience. So there was always this dichotomy of being Muslim but also being a distinct Muslim. We shared certain commonalities that allowed us to come together at specific times during fasting or things like that. The tsunami was, I think, it hit every Sri Lankan, and I think there's not one Sri Lankan who was not affected, who didn't have family affected by the tsunami. In my case, I had about 5 immediate family members and dozens others who were affected, because we're from the east. My mom's from Kalmune in the east, in the Ampara district, and that was one of the first areas to be hit by the tsunami. In fact, my grandmother's younger sister and her son and son-in-law and a few other of her distant relatives were killed. Were killed. In fact, in my mom's village, the first body that they found was actually my cousin. Yeah? So you can see this was where the water level was for this. That's where the water level was, and my grandmother survived that somehow. And her sister, who in the next house, this was her house, and she died. Whether you were Muslim or Sinhalese, or you were Hindu or Christian or Buddhist, or Tamil, suddenly you were just a corpse. This is a Muslim grave, but you don't know whether they were Muslim or whether they were Hindu. But you gave them the same respect. You would give, if you're a Muslim, you gave them the same respect. You gave the non-Muslims the same respect. Likewise, what was done to the Hindus or the Christians or the Buddhists, you would give them the same respect. When I look at these pictures of the tsunami, now we're coming up to 8 years, it still sends shivers down my spine, that, it wasn't just person X or person Y, but actually it was more the fact that this was your own flesh and blood that had been affected. Since I was never born here and never grew up here, I was speaking mainly from a hypothetical academic perspective, and to some extent I was. But because now I have that experience in Sri Lanka, people can't tell me that this happened or that happened, because I will tell them, well, actually, I was there. I know what happened. I know the challenges, but I also know the opportunities, and I know how the interactions. I think probably before we start, maybe some quick introductions so that people know who we are, and the purposes, like I said, is effectively we are facing certain challenges, rising not only rhetoric now, but also action that is Islamophobic in nature. What I do bring, particularly if we look at the Muslim community perspective, what I do bring is I bring in understanding of how things work in the West, bring in an understanding of what roles and responsibilities are for future reconciliation. But in fact, there are ways of putting the community down. And Nuruddin, who actually we had mutual friends, we probably would have met a couple of times when I was in Nigeria. So. It's a coincidence, but it's a good coincidence, and he's a good friend who works on issues of interfaith cooperation, intercommunity cooperation, and issues to do with challenging extremism. Currently, I think one of the biggest challenges that we have going forward is there seems to be a rise in Islamophobia or a rise in anti-Muslim hatred. Initially, it has been rhetoric. And now it seems to be action as well.
Educated, and it is viewed that you are financially strong, you're in trouble. Whatever your religion may be. Yeah. And that's why it may not.
What helps is the fact that I was here, that I have 4.5 years worth of work in Sri Lanka at the grassroots. That strengthens me, because I think one thing that we have to understand from Sri Lanka is that Sri Lanka has the ability, the opportunity, and also the resources to actually solve its own problems. I don't think we need outside help, but what I do think we need facilitators and the space to do that.
Remember, unfortunately, a lot of people in media are not in media for the purpose of social benefit. It's a business.
And one thing that I've learned from Sri Lanka is that it's always better that you come not preaching from outside, but actually being able to kind of work with them.
A lot of training programs for the resource persons of the major Islamic organizations to build their capacity for interfaith dialogue. And the use of interfaith dialogue became one where when a bomb...
My role is purely to act as a facilitator in this. Particularly now, because I'm not in Sri Lanka. If I was in Sri Lanka, I'd probably be a different type of maybe more proactive and pragmatic role. Currently, from where I am, all I can do is facilitate the discussions on how to move forward. And as it changes now with the rising Islamophobia, and things like that, we need to be a little bit more intelligent in how we respond.
Sri Lankans have a tremendous tradition of understanding the other. You lived as a Muslim minority.
So as facilitators, we need to see that from the start and see it through, despite any challenges that come, and despite our self-interest. Now, there's a fallacy in Sri Lanka as to who the diaspora are, because it's often put out to be the diaspora or the Tamil community, and that's been the language. We need to change the language. We need to talk about not just the Tamil diaspora, or maybe we don't use that, we use expats. But those Sri Lankans who are living abroad, who are particularly living in the West, who see the positive aspects of multiculturalism in the West, how different people based on their ethnicities, based on their cultural background, based on their religion, can still come together and to contribute. This is the lesson. These are the lessons we need to bring back as expats or diaspora.